ask you, when you discuss these kinds of things with the parents of your children's friends, what sort of response do you get to that?
I must admit, varied, depending on how open they are on the day or how confronting it is. Like, for example, we had our kids from school, where my son goes, he goes to a Montessori school, we decided that we were just going to meet in the park together and have morning tea together. So like I've brought a whole lot of fresh fruit and vegetables and they're all on the table, and there was all sorts of other things there that my son wouldn't eat during the week because it's not weekend food. So don't get me wrong, he eats donuts, ice cream, you know, all of that stuff, but he gets one on a Saturday and one on a Sunday, so he eats it, but not during the week and at 11 o'clock in the morning. So he asked me if he could have it, and he didn't understand why the others, and I just said, well, you know, at our place this is weekend food, but at other people's places that's not the case. So I was talking to him, I wasn't even talking to anybody else, and some parents went, wow, you're really strict with him. And I said, well, for me it's short-term pain for long-term gain. I don't want him to be overweight, because I know that, do you know the statistics are 1 in 4 children are overweight or obese right now. 1 in 4, that's 25% of kids. And the statistics show that if you're giving them junk food, they are more likely to be overweight because of the fact of the empty calories. You're replacing good calories with empty calories, and if in childhood it's not as bad, it's not as high a statistic of the link between obesity in adulthood and obesity in childhood, but with adolescence it can go up to 90% chance. It's like, you know, if you're an adolescent and you're overweight, the statistics show up to 90% chance of being an obese adult. So I cop it a bit, yes. Do I cop it a bit? Yes. And others then go, that's a really good rule. Weekend food. I never thought of that. I like that. So I get both. But because I believe in the whole idea that every parent knows best for their own child, every parent is making the most informed decision that they're making, it's up to every parent to take the information and do what they will with it. So but I must admit, this is where I'm at the moment. It's a really good question.
We have children at different ages, one form, one age. The 15 minutes, is it with both of them because they have different... they're at different stages.
That's a really good question. A lot of the activities can be done together, so I'll give you one for example. But some of them have to be done apart. So any of the nutritional ones, the health and well-being, going for a walk together, relaxation, there's so many that can be done together, because while their needs will be different and you'll be able to use different languaging and maybe explain a bit more to one than the other, the activity can still be done together. But any of the personal power, the ones that are to do with the inner human being, I always recommend to parents to do by themselves. So for example, when you're gauging the level of self-esteem of an 8-year-old to a 4-year-old, very different questions. So most of them I'd say yes, but some of them I'd say no. It really has to be individual one-on-one time.
Considering that I'm attending this 15 years too late, probably.
No such thing. No such thing.
The eldest is turning 17 and the youngest is turning 12. Is it too late, especially about the treats and the junks, since we call it treats, unfortunately?
Who knew? Who knew? For me, and this is why the do-over is good. So you sit down and you go, you know what? You know what I heard today? I heard this thing at this talk.
2 years later.
Exactly. You go, hey, I heard this thing. Exactly. And now I'm going to change the way I talk to myself, and I'd really like you to change it too, because it can make a difference in your whole life. Now, obviously, you're in a better position because your children are much more cognizant and they can learn a lot more. You can actually tell them the facts. You can start saying 1 in 20, 1/4 of kids, 25% of kids are obese, and it's because of these empty calories. I want to talk to you now about this now. We've called this thing a treat, but in actual fact, what it really is it's called junk food. We haven't called a spade a spade. So I want you to eat your junk food. I'm not suggesting you don't, but I want you to call it junk food, and maybe we restrict it. Let's pick 2 days a week. So 5 days are good days and 2 days are junk food days. You know, and I don't mean junk food days, I mean 2 bits of junk food on those 2 days. So I don't ever think it's too late, because it wasn't too late for me to learn, and I learnt it, you know, over 40. So So I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of, and then again, one of the things that's really important about parenting is not to expect it to happen overnight. You've just got to keep laying the foundation. I heard a beautiful quote, and I think it's very true, and that is that childhood, and I'm going to go right up to 18, I'm not going to stop at 4 or 5. Childhood is the resource that you draw on for the rest of your life. You lay the foundations there. So whether it happens at 17 or whether it happens at 7, I really believe if you start to lay those foundations, they will be the resources that they draw on for life. So I love that question, and I think no, I don't think it's ever too late, because I'm learning, and I think that neuroscience actually tells you that you can learn until the day you die.
I just wanted to ask, do you have suggestions on the self-esteem issue in handling children that are very comparative, particularly at school, on test performance and sports performance, and there's not a lot there to sort of help you get them back to that internal sort of benchmark rather than always looking outside?
That is such a beautiful question, and I think it is a real problem. And the suggestion I would make is based on all the things that we've talked about so far, and that is not to expect it to change overnight, and I'll explain why. From tiny, we've put them into competitive things. So we've created neural pathways in their head that are like the size of motorways now. So the whole idea of competition is a really big thing going on in their brain. I've got to compete against my brother and my sister and in the class, and I've got to do better in maths, and I've got to be a better swimmer, and I've got to do this. So you're working against something that thick in neural pathways, and you're going to be introducing this tiny little, like we're talking highway here, this little laneway that's kind of not even a laneway. But if you consistently support that laneway and don't support that laneway and don't support that laneway, this one kind of goes, oh yeah. The important thing to talk about is how does it feel to you to feel competitive, and how does it feel to you if you didn't have to? How would it feel to you if tomorrow you could go, you know what, I'm good enough. That's great, and I'm going to love doing that. That's fabulous, but I'm good enough anyway. How would that feel? So I'd be starting to engage them in what does it feel like when you're nervous and upset and you're really angry that you didn't achieve that, and what difference does it actually make, and what's happening in your body, versus just close your eyes and imagine for a moment, imagine that you were loved for just who you are, and that you didn't have to be the best at anything. Just imagine what that would feel like. Now, I don't think of anybody in this room that wouldn't go, oh yeah, that wouldn't feel good. I'd much rather feel nervous and upset and concerned. Do you see? So, but again, it is a big battle, because just keep thinking. You got this to contend with, so just keep little bit by little bit by little bit, and eventually, and a skill for life.
I'm wondering about this kind of dichotomy between being fat is bad, being too skinny is bad. My daughter too, so I don't know what it is. But she has a grandmother who's very obsessed about body image, and an auntie who's very obsessed about body image. I'm always dieting, always exercising to the extreme. I obviously don't want my daughter to be becoming obsessed about being too small any more than I want to become obsessed about being too big. I'm wondering what your views are on that.
That is an awesome question, and it is a huge problem, because the focus is on body image. And what I would suggest you do is take it away from body image altogether. In the Inspired Children program activities, and in the book that I've put a reference there for you, it's a brand new book from Sydney University, and it's to do, I can't remember the exact title, but it is here. Let me just tell you what it is. It is A Modern Epidemic, Obesity and Diabetes. It's a great book, and it'll give you so many insights into just that question that you want. But again, it's an academic text. It's there's chapters on for adults, for children. But I've found it very helpful, and that's where I've looked at some of this material that I'm just going to tell you about. If you take the focus from body image away, that's not even the issue, and you just focus on health and well-being, if you eat a good diet, and you only eat weekend food on the weekend, and you walk and you do exercise on a regular basis, and you keep your child away from sedentary, computer games and so forth, but you get them out. Like our son would go to the park at least 3 to 5 times a week. So that is like a habit. You couldn't sit him at home. He's like, take me to the park. So it becomes part of their being. So he'll want to be outside, he'll be wanting to do things. She will, sorry, my apology, your daughter will be wanting to do things. So it's just about lifestyles, and you can start that right now. One of the things we do, especially in summer, not so much in winter, is we all go for a 15-minute walk up and down the street together, and that includes grandma as well. Like, you know, mum's there, and we talk about things and we go. And you could just pop her in the pouch and walk up and down, and you can just continue that on. As she's walking as a toddler, take her up and down the street. That's how my son learned numbers. He's sitting at the post box, and he went, "What's that?" And I was like, "Oh, they're numbers." And it happened to be a 9, and I said, "It's a 9." And we walked to the next one. He went, "9?" I went, "No, not a 9, but you know, we'll go on to 11." So many things can happen out in nature. So I would completely ignore body image. I think that's the unhealthy way to look at it. Focus on these things are good for your body, these things are nutritious, these things are empty calories, so we only have them on the weekend, and we need to exercise our beautiful body. And then it's really simple. If you eat well and you exercise, there is no body image problem.
Just picking up on the competitive thing, I'm interested to know that given the choice, would you steer children away from doing those activities, knowing that we have so much competition in schools and things like that? So with extracurricular, is that something that you recommend?
I'm going to give you my personal experience rather than my recommendation, if you don't mind. I prefer just to give information and people to just make up their own mind. My niece was going to a school, and she came home and said to her mum, my sister, "Mummy, I'm not on the dumbest table, I'm on the second dumbest table," kind of pleased with herself. And you can imagine when my sister rang me out and said, "You're not going to believe what she said today." And it was all about the competition, and the reason why she knew that was because all of the readers have a different colour, they have a different level, so even though no one said to her she's on the second dumbest table, she's not a dumb kid, so she figured out she's on the second dumbest table. My sister decided to move her out of that environment into a completely different environment. She's chosen to put her in a Steiner school. I've chosen to put my son in a Montessori school for the very same reason. I'm really about enhancing the individual as opposed to competition. For me, I want my son to be the best he can be. It makes no difference to me what it is he's best at and how he compares to others. So the school environment that we've chosen is one of non-competitive. It's supporting the individual to be the best they can be. So if that concerns you, I would be doing the same thing that I recommended over here, and that is talk about how amazing it is to be an individual, and it's fine to be competitive. I don't think it's a problem to be competitive personally. I don't think that's a problem, but I wouldn't like it to be the only mode. I mean, think about it. How much fun is it when you're playing a sport and you're competing against someone? How much fun is it when you're playing a game? It's not so much the competition, is what does it mean afterwards? I'd be focusing on the meaning. So if, you know, even if there's an education that is quite competitive and that's the education you've got, you can still focus on the meaning of it. What does that mean to you? There's a professor here called Andrew Martin, and he's got beautiful work as well. I should have referenced that, but Andrew Martin, get any of his books. One of the things he talks about is the most healthy competition for a child is self-competition with self, personal bests. So if your child has to be competitive, go, yeah, let's put a chart together. You got that much in your maths last week, let's see if we can get this much more in your maths this week. So if they want competition, make it with themselves. Put their face in the mirror and go, beat that. That's what you need to beat, not anything else, but beat that if that's important to you.
Quite a lot of differences between how you would teach your child about self-competition or how other families would do it. And there's quite a lot of tutoring happening, for example. You go to school, it's not enough, you've got to go to tutor. And when it comes to later years in life, it becomes more and more evident in certain groups especially. How do you explain that to your child?
It's a good question. You know, the whole concept that I used to worry about things like that, and you're suggesting that what your message at home isn't the same message as what's outside in the world. I used to freak out about that, and it used to bother me, and it used to worry me. But the more I've read, and the more I've gotten into the science of child development, what I've realised is that it is all of that that makes your child who they are. It is that conflict, it is that tension, it is that in the world that you can then say, okay, you've got a choice. In this environment, this is what happens. When you're playing a game of rugby or whatever it is, no one goes, oh, don't worry, you get the goal. Oh, no, you get the goal. Oh, please, get the goal. So, do you know what I mean? So I agree with you. At school and in certain games and everything, there is going to be that competition. So you can explain. In certain environments, that's going to be there. But what's most important is how you interpret that. Is it just a game, or is it all life-threatening now? So what we're trying to say in our home is, yeah, you know, we play snakes and ladders, and sometimes he wins and sometimes he doesn't. We're really important. That's really important. We do not let him win all the time. We absolutely do not, and we deal with that and help him deal with, and we play a lot of putt-putt as a family, so he always wants to go first, and we go, no, Mummy goes first, then Daddy goes first, then you go first, because that's the way it is in the world. So I feel like you need to balance the two and let them be exposed to all of this, but just give your philosophy and allow them to grapple with it. Life's mysterious and life's difficult, and it has lots of grapples, and now I'm not so protective. Now I'm like, I'll give you an example. I came home and my son was doing some work, and he was going, silly me. And I thought, I didn't say that. Where that's coming from? So my mum minds him 2 days a week. So I said, Mum, do you say silly me? She goes, oh yes, all the time. And I went, oh. I said, Cameron's picking up on it. Now, normally, if I hadn't read everything I hadn't done, whatever I'd done, I would have gone, are you normal? Why are you teaching him such bad habits? Telling himself he's really silly. I just went, oh, okay, Mum. I left it at that, went down, sat down with Cameron. The next time he said silly me, I said, sweetie, when you say silly me, it's not very kind to yourself. It doesn't feel very nice to say silly me. So why are you saying it? Well, I couldn't do it. I said, well, that's okay, because sometimes you can't do something. You have to keep doing it till you learn it. And when you learn it, then you're better at it. Anyway, a few days later, Mum said to me, do you know what Cameron said to me today? I said, no, Mum, what did you say? She said, I said silly me, and he said, Bubba, don't say that. It's not kind to yourself. So I rest my case, is what I'm saying. Deal with whatever conflict and allow that beautiful child to blossom. Thank you, everyone. I'm really grateful for the time and the questions. Thank you very much.